Welcome back to 5 Miles Easy with me, Rose Harvey.
And me, Steph McCall. She's an Olympian.
And she's an elite ultra runner, so you might think we have this running thing pretty figured out.
We absolutely don't, but we're on a mission to become better runners.
And we're bringing you along for the journey.
So let's lace up for 5 Miles Easy.
Steph, happy 2-year anniversary of the pod. Can you believe 2 years ago today, we recorded our first ever episode?
I actually can't believe that's 2 years ago. Yeah,
it's
I know.
flown by. I think we have shared a little bit about this on the pod before, but to think about how we first started, which was back to basics in my living room.
We still need to release some of this footage because I do have it on my phone still.
Oh, God.
And it's so funny.
It is hilarious.
How we thought we could really make a podcast work with our own editing, our own microphones on your sofa. It was just... And so many outtakes, like it was not smooth sailing at all.
It was not smooth sailing. And you know what cracked me up the most was having the microphone hanging off the lamp because we couldn't figure out a way to...
But we both thought that was a good idea. We were like, yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah, we thought we cracked it.
Yeah, we've come a long way, but not just in the podcast recording, in our running lives, personal lives. Lots has changed. So I think it's a nice time to reflect on that.
Definitely. A lot has changed and... learned a lot of lessons along the way. So we're going to be sharing lots about that on the show today.
Yes.
As well as answering some listener questions, because that's another thing we haven't done for a while.
Yeah.
And we've got some great ones.
Yeah, absolutely. So to kick off though, should we catch up on the latest in our training? Because it's been a few weeks since we've talked about that as well. And I think we've got some updates. So
We do. Do you want to kick off? What has been happening?
Yeah, well, I've got quite a big one, I feel, that I have made a coaching switch. Which,
big news.
Yeah, and it's exciting. It's really different. It took a lot of thought because I had a really good relationship with my previous coach, and it was not the case of I don't want him to coach me anymore. It was more, okay, where am I at in my running? What do I really want to get out of it? And what's going to be the best way forward for me? So I had a really honest conversation with my previous coach, and he was actually like, you know what, Steph, if you want to be focusing on ultras, then my new coach is probably going to be better for me. And, you know, I think it's important to have that kind of open, honest conversation, not go behind anyone's back. And we were all on the same page. So it felt like a really smooth transition. And I took my time in kind of working out that it was the right decision, had a few phone calls with my new coach to make sure like that was the right fit for me. And yeah, I'm really excited about it. And I'm just glad that everyone was kind of on the same page. There was no hard feelings. And it's going to be, quite a different setup now. So just getting into that.
That's really exciting. So a new chapter. What I'm interested in is what's different in terms of training, because it's not like you're going from, 1,500 meters to ultra.
Yeah.
You're going from marathon to ultra, which isn't, from my understanding, the training isn't like crazily different. So what did you feel like was perhaps slightly missing with your old coach that your new coach really can help you achieve? Yeah,
no, it's a good point. And I actually think sometimes even if you look at, say you were sticking with marathon, two coaches have quite different philosophies. So it's not even like if you change distance, that's what changes. It's coaches do have different ways of working. So that's part of it. But yeah, I just wanted to have full faith in a coach that I knew he's trained athletes for the ultra distance, and I've seen examples of them performing well. And that's not to say, changing coach, you're suddenly going to be like amazing at a distance, but it's kind of like, okay, I've seen some good examples of my new coach performing well in the ultra distances, and I'd like to learn, like, what do you do differently? So there are a lot of things that are different. Stripping back a lot of the like fast interval sessions, not to lose speed because that's still an important part. But what I'm doing with a lot of my easy runs is I'll have strides at the end of my run, which I'm laughing at because I know in a previous episode I was like, yeah, strides aren't that important. And now it's like ingrained into my plan. So like after 2 days a week, I'm doing strides at the end of my run. I'm having to do random hill sprints in the middle of a run, just in an easy run.
Oh, right.
And then I've got this new thing called diagonals, which are like you go to a football or rugby pitch and you kind of like jog the long edge and then you run fast on the diagonal, and you do that for like 20 minutes straight in the middle of an hour easy run. So all these things are really new to me because they're not sessions. They're like you kind of run fast and you engage those like faster twitch fibers without fatiguing your legs. Because during it, you might feel like, okay, I'm running fast, but like afterwards, you're not tired. I don't think at the end of the day, I feel like I've done a session.
Like short duration.
Yeah.
But then you're also doing sessions on top of that. So is this like additional fast work?
Yeah, so that's like additional stuff. And at the moment, I think one of those will probably swap for more of a session as it goes on, because I'm kind of in the beginning of the block. So at the moment, I've basically had one sort of session a week, which is more like progression, tempo stuff, because my coach is very much like, we need to build your endurance. Like I thought, oh, my endurance is quite good. I've run long distances. And he was like, no, like your endurance is probably what's letting you down in some aspects. And actually just doing longer, slower stuff is quite important. So yeah, sort of tempo, progression runs, and then a long run as well, which is kind of like more of he calls it moderate. So like not easy, but not really, really fast.
Yeah, okay, interesting. So what's the point of those little fast bits in your easy runs? Because to me, that seems almost like the opposite that I would expect from an ultra coach, to kind of be focusing on that like short sprinty stuff.
Well, I think it is that when you're training for the longer stuff, you can easily become a bit of a plodder.
Right.
Because if I'm going to be doing an ultra marathon, say like when I was training for the 100K, the pace you're running in the race is not very fast. So if I was just focusing on race pace, it's like you end up just being a bit of like a slow runner. Yeah. And actually you really need to engage those faster paces still. Just like with the marathon as well, like your marathon pace, I know it's very fast to like the average person, but if you were trying to run a 5K, like that's way faster than your marathon pace. So like you still need to try.
Well, you would hope. I'm not sure it is in reality,
well,
but
you want
theoretically,
it to be,
yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like you want to be able to go faster than your marathon pace.
Yeah. You can't be operating at the top end of your spectrum, ultimately. So you've got to like raise the top end of your spectrum so you're operating below it.
Exactly. And then if you want to get faster at any distance, you need to train faster than that. You can't always be like, okay, that's my marathon pace and we'll just settle at that then. So I think it's, very much like I don't want to become just this slow runner. Like I still want to be able to do faster races as well as getting better at the ultra distance. And I need to be able to run fast to do that.
How different do you think the training will be? And linked to that, what's the transition period? Because I suppose if it's a big switch, you don't want to be changing your training dramatically, because that's when injuries happen and stuff. So how do you actually transition?
I think the transition period is the fact that I've not gone into loads of sessions a week. It has been like mostly easy runs with these faster bits, then like one session and a long run. And my mileage is less. So he's cut back my mileage, not dramatically, like it's very reasonable still, but it doesn't make me feel like, I'm not running, but it is a bit less. So I think it's giving me the time to kind of just adapt to that. And also I think it's just a completely different setup. So for example, previously I'd kind of manage my own easy days. So my coach would give me my sessions and then my easy days would be like, okay, this is what I'll run today. And just from experience, I know what's not stupid. But now I'm told like, it's all time-based. So this morning I had 50 minutes easy, for example. And it's like that. I kind of like that. I did like having the flexibility before, but I feel like at this point, I'm like, I actually want to be told what to do every day. So it's quite nice sometimes to be like, okay, after 50 minutes, I can stop. Yeah. And then I've got 30 minutes later and that's quite nice. So that's a bit different. And I also have to keep a training diary every single day. And that's like, you can go into as much detail as you want, but the more detail you give, the better, because then it's like if I was really tired one week, my coach can then look at that and be like, well, maybe it's because you did this or like you didn't really eat enough that day or whatever. Like you can just kind of give as much detail as you want. And that's quite useful for me as well, because I'm reflecting each day on like, how was I feeling? And I wasn't keeping a training diary before at all.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So he sees everything in the training diary and...
Yeah, so he sees like exactly what I ran. I say like how much sleep I had. I'll say what I eat, and that's not for him to judge what I'm eating. It's more like if I said, oh, I don't feel so great, he could then look back and be like, oh, maybe because of this. Yeah. And I'll say what I've done in the day because, if I've been like commuting to London and doing all this, then that will affect your training as well. So that's so interesting.
And I think it's so helpful to have someone from an outside perspective looking in, because I think we're all guilty of expecting ourselves to be superhuman and forgetting what goes on externally and being like, why can't I hit this session? This is ridiculous. Like ignoring everything else that's gone. I had a track session on Wednesday and very, very tired going into it. But I was like, well, of course I don't need to adjust my targets. Like it's my own fault I'm tired.
Yeah, I know.
It was a car crash. And then I got really frustrated by it. And I was like, oh my God, like what's happened? I don't know where my legs are. And then
you're like, but I'm tired. Like there's a reason
I'm really
for
tired,
it.
yeah.
Don't beat yourself up. No, I felt that yesterday on my long run. I was like, I'd gone to this music event on Saturday and I was like, I knew going into it, I was like, you've done this to yourself. I'd had a couple drinks. I was like, why did I do that? I didn't need to drink. And then it obviously affected my sleep. Did my long run yesterday, just like beating myself up, like, Steph, that's the last time you go out. You're never drinking. Like, I've done this to myself. But it's a good learning. I think now that I'm writing it down, I'm like, okay, now I know that's how I feel. Like, it will make me think about it next time as well.
But also, what would you say to a friend in that situation? Like maybe just cut yourself some slack if it's one long run and it's not exactly
true.
You haven't got a race in 4 weeks.
Yeah, and I did remind myself, like I'm at the beginning of a block, like, let's ease ourselves in. You will become naturally a bit more strict with yourself anyway as you're getting close to the race.
You have time to be strict with yourself and you kind of need to save the energy for that time when you do have to be strict.
But sometimes I just get a bit excited. I'm sometimes a bit of a yes girl and things just tempt me. But yeah, I do think once my mindset is like into it, then I do become much more, I don't know, I guess, strict.
So for listeners who are maybe questioning their current coaching situation, and just to touch on this, I think this is a really good time to highlight the importance of having a personal coach if you are training for something really specific or if you're really trying to kind of up it. I'm not saying there's not a place for the online plans and the apps because they are fantastic for certain things, but I do think they probably have their limitations. And as you've experienced, you had a really good coach, but like just not quite ticking the boxes in this very specific area that you want to tick. So if there are other people listening to this who maybe think their training isn't working for them, for whatever reason, like how do you identify that it is time to switch?
Yeah.
Because I guess there's so many factors that play into performance. It might be coaching. It might be, you might just be in a bit of a rut for whatever reason. It might be like everything else going on in life and you're just tired and not hitting your session. So like, how did you identify that actually you needed that coaching switch?
Yeah, I think it was a couple things. I think, as I said, it was the fact I wanted to focus on the longer distances. So I wanted someone that I really knew what he was doing with that. But I think the other thing is I'd had my previous coach for just over 3 years. And obviously people can have their coach for much longer than that. But I do think sometimes a little bit of change just helps sort of motivate you, and not that you can expect to change coaches and suddenly like your performances get way better, because if that's the reason you want to change, then I would reevaluate your thought process. But actually, if you think maybe a new stimulus is just going to like help push you and excite you, then that can be a good thing as well. If you're just a bit, I guess, bored with what you've been doing. Yeah. And I wasn't bored. That wasn't my reason. But I do just think sometimes just having something a bit new can just
Shaking
help.
it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good tips.
So that was a lot of time spent talking about me. What about your training? What is the latest? What are you doing over the summer?
No major life updates, to be honest, but training's been going well. Up until now, I've kind of been in a bit of a building a base period where nothing has been majorly exciting, to be honest, but just getting back from London Marathon, kind of slowly building up fitness, and to be honest, trying not to rush it. I think I find this period quite challenging when I don't have the pressure of a race immediately, and I find myself getting really itchy and being like desperate to push the sessions. And that's when my coach comes in and reminds me on a very regular basis, this is not the time to be pushing the sessions, because that time will come, and if you do it too early, it ends in tears. So I'm trying to be a little bit more disciplined with just kind of being consistent rather than going for A-star sessions at this time. Now I am kind of getting into more of a race blocks. I'm aiming for some half marathons in autumn, so I can start to get a little more excited about it, which is fun. And it is feeling like I'm kind of getting into race season, which is nice because it just gives me a bit more focus. And not that I ever really feel like I really enjoy training, so I don't necessarily lack motivation for training, but it just gives me a bit more purpose and a focus.
Something that you're working towards.
Yes.
The training is actually leading to something else.
Exactly. And I'm going to the mountains very soon, which I am very excited about.
Amazing. Where are you going?
Out to Juez, which I
Love
haven't been to
it.
before.
Yes.
I've heard incredible things about it for training. It's altitude, but you can drop down to an 800-meter bike path, as in it's at 800 meters.
Okay, yeah.
Pancake Flats bike path. So it sounds like dream.
I remember hearing.
dream
How long
running
is the
territory.
bike path? I remember hearing about this.
About 18 miles.
Wow. So that is perfect.
Perfect.
Yes.
So very excited. We're driving out with Willow. So Willow's first altitude camp as well.
Do we know how dogs are affected by altitude? I feel like I see a lot of dogs in these mountain towns. So
I mean, she's going to, have the easy week
yes.
with me to adjust. She might do some shorter runs and may only come on my doubles for the first week, just so,
Yeah.
she can adapt too.
She's going to get fit.
She's going to be a very fit girl. So, yeah, very excited. And it would just be nice to kind of get out of London craziness for a bit and get my head down for a few weeks before half marathon season.
Is that the reason that you want to go, just to sort of get away and switch off a bit and focus on training, or why is the timing to do it now?
That's a big reason. As you know, I very much struggle to stay focused on, well, not stay focused on training, but to kind of get my head down and stop saying yes to everything in London. Whereas the mountains, you're kind of out of sight and out of mind, which very much helps me. So that's one reason. But also, I really want to test racing off altitude, which I've never actually done before.
Okay.
So I've done an altitude block, but I've always come back 4 weeks before and then raced. I wouldn't want to test it with a marathon because it's kind of too high risk.
Yes.
But with half marathons or 10Ks, it's just a bit less crucial. I'm actually going to try racing straight off altitude and see how it goes for me.
So how many days after you come back?
2.
Wow.
So like straight from the mountains
Yes.
to the race, and we'll see how it goes.
So what if it, I mean, hopefully it is fantastic, but if it doesn't go well, are you going to then test it again at some point of like, what's the perfect time?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I feel like this autumn period is a really good time for it because there are so many half marathons within a short period of time and 10Ks that I can choose to do. And obviously you don't need as much recovery in between them as a marathon. So I think either I'm going to feel fantastic, in which case, great, I found out I can race really well off altitude, or I feel terrible. And then I guess I've got 2 options of, do I test it again in case I was just having a bad day, or maybe I just need to kind of feel that again to get used to it.
Yeah.
So I could test it again and kind of go back to the mountains and then race again. Or I just say, okay, that did not go well. Let's give myself a couple of weeks at sea level and then race. So I think basically I'll make a decision after I race off altitude for the first time, and hopefully it's great, but we'll see.
Yeah, hopefully that'll make it easier to work with in the future. And then would you, so if it went well, then you would maybe use that for future marathons, come down from altitude and then a couple of days later race?
Yeah, potentially. Obviously you have to get the location and the timing right, and it can be much more difficult for marathons. I think
The
travel, and there are often things I've got to do in the days leading up to it, like press and stuff, and then it makes the timing tricky. But it'll be really nice to have that option. So that's planned, and it's kind of a good time. It's something I've always wanted to experiment with a bit, and it's a good time to do it. And if it doesn't work, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, that's great. Love an experiment.
Yes, exciting. Very, very excited to be there. So those are our kind of immediate life training updates. But as we said, it's been 2 years of the pod. So I thought it'd be fun to look back on where we were 2 years ago, which is quite funny when you think about it, because I'm sure a lot of people will relate to this. Sometimes you can kind of feel like, oh, like what's really changed in 2 years? What have I achieved? And then when you actually look back, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Quite a lot has happened.
I know. I really feel like I should have also listened to the pilot again, but I don't.
I'm
I
not
don't
sure
want
I
to.
can.
So then I could really be like, okay, what was I saying then and where am I now? But you're right. When you do think about it, so much has when you can feel like not much has changed, but so much has at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 2 years ago, we were at Love Trails Festival
Yes.
recording our live episode with Carla Molinaro.
Yeah.
And which retrospectively with bucket hats on, didn't have a clue what we were doing, but just went for it and it was great.
Mm-hmm.
I was training for Chicago Marathon.
Yeah. And you had no idea what was going to turn into.
I had no idea. And I think at the time I wasn't even that fit. I remember being at Love Trails Festival and feeling like, I wasn't in amazing shape and thinking, I really hope I can PB this autumn. But at the time, my PB was 2:27. So I was aiming for like 2:26.
Yeah.
And that's one thing when I was looking back. It's interesting to see how short a time it was that things really turned around for me in training.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I do always try to keep in mind when I'm in a bit of a rut, is thinking, well, things can change pretty quickly. Yeah. And suddenly you get out of a rut and you're flying.
Yeah, that's so true. I actually had similar at that point because I don't think I felt very fit that summer at all. And then we did the big half and that didn't go well for me. And I just thought, oh God, I'm in terrible shape, or I had a stitch during that. So I was in this rut of not feeling fit. And like, that's only a few months after I'd started working with a sports psychologist. And I was like, okay, like I'm still not right. And then I think it was 2 months later in October, I ran my half marathon PB. Like mentally, I felt so much better. Obviously, like physically, I felt way fitter. And that's still my half marathon PB now. I hadn't looked at my watch through that whole race. And I'm like, wow, like that's a really quick turnaround as well, that these things can just happen.
Yeah, and everything just suddenly clicks into place.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2 years ago, can you remember what your goals were for running?
I don't think I'd really... It is weird because the main one here is obviously now I'm like, I want to be aiming for ultra marathons. And I don't even think then I was thinking about that. I thought I had Frankfurt Marathon as the like immediate goal. And so the half marathon was building up to that. So yeah, I don't think I'd looked that far ahead, to be honest. I think I was like, I'll do another marathon. Like that's just what I'm meant to be doing, and you just want to get faster. But I was in this process of really trying to work on my mindset and just enjoy racing again, which I do feel like I've completely transformed my mindset on that, which is a huge thing in the last 2 years. But yeah, I don't think definitely wouldn't have thought, I'll be doing 2 oceans every year. I'm going to be doing hopefully comrades next year. Like that definitely wasn't my mind then.
It's so funny to think. And now it feels like ultra's been your world for so long.
Yeah,
and
it is funny.
You've been working with a sports psychologist for so long, and it's like, it's actually only 2 years ago.
I know, yeah. And yeah, I guess, what about you? Because if you were training for Chicago then, I guess you had the Olympics in mind, surely, at that point, because that was a year before.
Yeah, well, yes, I did, because I was trying to get
the time.
But I think that summer I was thinking I'm going to be doing very well if I run a PB.
Right.
And so it was very much like, this is a really long shot. But I think my mindset was more, it'd be really cool if I could get the qualifying time. It's a very long shot to actually get into the Olympics. But, if I can just scrape the qualifying time, which was 2:26.50, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
Then that'd be a really good achievement.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't think the next 2 years would pan out how they did.
Yeah, for sure.
It wasn't really in my remit, but...
And then I guess also in those 2 years, there were some setbacks as well.
Yes.
How do you feel like, I don't know, it's weird that it's 2 years ago because you've kind of gone this like bit of a roller coaster where you were like, I'm not sure I'm in great shape, to running 2:23, to then like, could I make the Olympics? And then obviously you faced injury as well, like mixed with the high of being in the Olympics. It's like a whirlwind.
I feel like each year the highs have got higher and the lows it's been more of a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Like I progressed from the teacups to I don't know, what's the one that goes up and drops you? That one.
Yeah.
The terrifying roller coaster.
Yeah.
It's definitely become a little hectic at times. But as you say, I went from thinking, okay, maybe I can run a PB. I'm in like 2:26 shape, to having a great day at Chicago, then potentially qualifying for the Olympics. Then when I wasn't selected in the first round, I thought, I'm not getting in. So I had that whole drama to contend with. Then I did get in. And then obviously Paris did not go to plan, and had that kind of whole turmoil to deal with, which was not a great time for me.
No.
And then I think kind of coming out of that, and it did force me to really reflect on like, okay, why am I doing this? Let's strip it back to actually why I love running and go back to basics. And it really actually helped me reset my whole mindset on running, which I think my running career happened so quickly, I hadn't really engaged my brain in it. And you get sucked along and suddenly you realise that, okay, this actually isn't what it should be to me. And it made me really like strip it back and then start enjoying it again and actually realise how to make my career work for me and still enjoy it and love it.
Yeah. Well, I guess when we first started as well, 2 years ago, you'd been a full-time athlete for what, just over a year?
Yeah.
So did you sign in 2022?
Yeah.
Yeah, so then, 2023 when we started the podcast, like it hadn't actually been that long that you'd been living that life.
It really hadn't.
So actually adding another 2 years to that, you've experienced so much more of being a professional athlete.
Yeah, and you just learn so much about how it works. And in that time, re-signed with Puma, which is awesome. So gone through that process again. Yeah, really positive, but I suppose also helped me think about my goals for the next few years as I was thinking about my contract. So yeah, I feel like a lot has happened in 2 years.
Yeah.
A lot has happened. And yeah, just working out how to be a professional runner, really.
Yeah, for sure. And then I guess starting the podcast, well, for me, when we first started, I was in a job that I wasn't loving.
Yeah, I'd completely forgotten
working
about
full
that.
time. I remember I was like, oh God, like I need to do something else for my life because I just hate this. And because we'd started the podcast, I was like, you know what? I clearly love this way more than my other job. I wonder if I can make something work where then I'll have a bit more time outside of work for training as well. Because when you work full time, as we all know, and so many people do this, like fitting it around full-time work is really hard. Yeah, and then so it's been now a year and a half where I've been in a role where I'm still in finance, but I'm 3 days a week, which is an absolute privilege, I realise. But being able to spread 3 days of work a week over the whole week has just opened up so much time for me where I can like really focus on training. I can focus on doing the podcast when we need to. And then there's like space for other things as well. And like some weeks are definitely still stressful with work where I'm like, I have to prioritise that. But it's so nice being able to have more of a balance. That's a real change.
Yeah, definitely. And don't you think when you look back, you wonder how you did it? I really wonder how I did training and full-time work.
I know.
I don't know.
I don't know. And I think it's so nice now that I can go out for a run pretty much any time. You know, if there's a meeting, obviously, like I can't, but pretty much any time I want to and just not feel guilty about doing it because I have that time to do that. And also I'm so fortunate that I work in a company where they completely like know everything about my life, that I am a runner. I take it really seriously. Like they know about the podcast. And they take interest in that. So it's like, I'll get back to you. I've just got to go for my run. And they understand. So it's good.
Full kudos to people who do it full time around jobs, kids. Because,
yes, 100%.
Serious respect for all those people out there who do juggle training, big goals, families, jobs. And actually, we have some listener questions on exactly this topic. So, shall we get into some of the questions?
Yes, let's. Thank you very much for sharing your questions. We always love answering these. So the first one, which links to what we were just talking about in terms of juggling life, running, training, is what to eat pre-long run if your long run is at 6 a.m. due to young kids and sleep is precious.
6 a.m.
Yes.
That is painful. You know what? I've actually been having to go out quite early recently because it's been hot and I don't have to take Willow. I like taking Willow with me. So we have to go early for Willow.
Yeah.
And I've actually been doing a lot of work recently. So I've had to fit my running in before work. Now my early is more like 7 a.m, but still feels quite early. So I do sometimes find when I have half an hour to digest my food, porridge is not the one. But I actually find toast easier. Or you know what I actually really like is these like griddle waffles.
Oh yeah, I've seen them.
And they feel like they really don't sit in your stomach. Like they feel like you're nothing in your stomach, but they're a good little bit of carbs. So a couple of those.
Yeah. Do you put anything on them?
Banana.
Yeah.
Banana. Just
perfect.
Straight sugar.
Yeah. I think anything that you can just digest quickly that's like carb based, and also making sure that you've eaten well the night before if you're doing your long run in the morning, because then you'll still have glycogen stores from that as well. Yeah. You just got to train it.
I find banana's quite good as well. Just anything that's quick to digest. And then I think also maybe accepting you can't eat as much before as absolutely ideal. So take gels with you.
Yeah.
And then have something really good afterwards.
Yeah.
So as long as you're, as long as in that training window you're getting enough nutrients, I think if you can't get in a big breakfast beforehand, like you can't.
Yeah, like a small thing is better than nothing.
And then it's just really, really important to take enough fuel during your run so you can keep topping up and you don't run out of glycogen stores and crash.
Yes.
No one likes that.
Oh, no way.
Linked to long runs, how to pace long runs and inject marathon pace. I think that means into long runs. So I guess pacing long runs generally, there are different approaches. I do mine quite steady, but that's because I'm marathon training and I count it as a session.
Yeah.
I do it steady, but it is like a hard day.
Yeah, exactly. And also I think mentally for me, sometimes it's like, you have a long way to go.
Might as well do it quickly.
And not that I'm like rushing to get it done, but it almost feels like you need to like build the momentum of the run versus like a shorter run. But I guess it just depends on the purpose of your training. Like, is it meant to be an easier day? Or if you're trying to fit in these marathon pace sections, you just got to plan it in advance. Like, how are you going to break that down? So if you have 20 miles, like you could put in, I don't know, 3x5K during that 20 miles with some easy running in between.
Yeah, I think that's I actually really like the long runs with marathon pace in it because it does break it up so nicely. Yeah. I often have, the way my coach often structures my long run sessions is I'll have like 10 miles of steady running at the start and then a workout on the back, which is brutal.
Yeah.
But it does break it up really nicely because 10 miles feels very manageable and then you just have the workout to do.
Yeah, I like that. And also, I will say you are very good at the last 10K in a marathon. And I feel like you train a lot for that.
Yes.
Like that is your strength. Whereas a lot of runners, obviously it's the hardest part of the marathon, but a lot of runners really do struggle there. So if you can practice training when you're really tired at the end of a long run, like that's going to really help you out.
Definitely. And I think mentally as well, it's really helped me because there have been so many days on those long run sessions where I do get to 10 miles and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know how my legs are going to do this. Like I can't, in my head, I can't go quicker than what I'm running. Yeah. And then you do. Yeah. And once you've overcome that several times, you just get used to it.
Yeah, and then you can revisit that during the race that you've done that so many times. You're like, I can get through this.
I can pick up my legs. Yeah. I do really enjoy that approach. It's tough, but it works.
Mm-hmm. Also linked to training structure, I guess, is why do we do double runs or why do people do double runs?
It's basically a good way to build mileage without accumulating loads of fatigue from longer runs. Because if you've got 12 miles to run in a day, running 12 miles in one go is quite fatiguing on your body. And I think running 8 and 4 is a lot with a break in between. So you've recovered is a lot less fatiguing.
I also find it like mentally as well. Like if I knew I had to run, I wouldn't mind the odd 12-mile run, but like if I knew I had to do that every single morning, I'd be a bit like, oh gosh, it's quite a long way. And if I break it up into 8 and 4, then that's quite nice. And it structures your day quite nicely as well.
But I think from a physiological point of view, 12 miles, I mean, you're really getting into like going through the glycogen stores at that point, and then you need a gel, and it's just a very different type of run. And I don't think it's good to do that every single day.
Agree. And that actually links to another question of someone asking how to increase speed and distance as part of half marathon, full marathon training, that you need to kind of not do everything at once. So if you are trying to increase your distance, then yes, adding maybe an extra 30-minute run in the week. You might not even run every day. So adding in an extra day that you run, or just, running in 30 minutes in the evening one day, you'll realize like it's not that much more on your body, and you will recover from it and you will adapt from it. So that's a really easy way of adding in the volume. And then I guess separately increasing speed is you kind of don't want to do both things in the same week, I would say.
Yes. Yeah.
Like intensity and volume are like two separate things.
And I think the key thing with doing more speed work is to do it really gradually and make sure you do have the recovery in between sessions, because even if the volume of the session is quite short, it's the intensity, which, as Aidan has told us many times, which does present injury risks and fatigue risk. It is hard on your body. So making sure you've got a good amount of time before the next session to recover.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, we have a couple of questions on fueling. How do you know if you're eating enough? Question around overtraining versus underfueling, which I think they're kind of asking, are they the same thing? And how do you know which you're doing? And then another one is, someone says they're eating enough but missing their period. Any advice on that? So 3 kind of similar questions.
Linked.
I think the problem with fueling is it's so hard to measure. You can't measure exactly how many calories you're burning. And so it is really difficult to, and
everyone's different.
Everyone's different. And especially with marathon training, you are burning a lot of calories. And I think the key thing to remember is the challenge is always going to be eating enough rather than eating too much.
And I think this is what people don't realise. Like, if in doubt, you're not eating enough, because I mean, obviously you could eat too much, but it's actually very hard to do that. Very, very hard to do. And I think, yes, unless, you're going to McDonald's for 5 meals a day, you will struggle to eat too many calories. Yes.
So I think as a general rule of thumb, if in doubt, just eat a little bit more. And carbs is so important. So just have a little more carbs throughout the day, whether that's an extra piece of toast as a snack or an extra handful of rice at dinner. Just add a little bit more and see if that makes a difference. So you can't go too far wrong.
Exactly. And I think there are like some easy signs that will kind of signal if you're not. So if you are just feeling tired all the time, you're not recovering from sessions. If you can't sleep, that's a big one. Like if you keep waking up in the night or you can't sleep, like your body's just all over the place. You're missing your period, which is one of the questions you just said. There's lots of research out there that you can look up, but
the point about eating enough and missing your period is a really interesting one, because I went to this conference recently, which was very scientific and way above my pay grade. But there was a very, very interesting talk titled, Does Red S Actually Exist? And I will put in the show notes a link to the paper, because it raises some very interesting points around. So the diagnosis of Red S is basically based on symptoms, because it is impossible to measure whether you have low energy. So it's based on a collection of symptoms, but these symptoms happen for loads of different reasons, that one of which is low energy, but there are 8 different things that could feed into this. And those 8 things are training and exercise load, life/environmental factors, so stress, mental health, disordered eating, nutrition, sleep, illness or infection, and then undiagnosed clinical conditions.
It's stress on the body, effectively.
Yes, and there are so many different aspects of stress on the body. So I think nutrition is normally the obvious answer, especially in endurance running, because as we said, you are burning so much. But I think if you've really dialed into nutrition and tackled that and still not seeing any improvement, you're not getting your period back, then maybe look into these other things that it could be.
Yeah, definitely.
But it was a very, very interesting talk, and the kind of theory behind it was a lot of these other things are overlooked, because the assumption is it's always got to be nutrition, energy related.
I guess so. But I guess they all link in a way, because if you are overtraining, then as a result you might be under eating. But I guess it is like a physical stress on the body, and one of those things is the extra movement that you do in the day as well, that you often don't think about. So you might just think about, okay, I ran this amount today, but actually you ended up cycling to work, or you like walked, you did a dog walk, and like that all counts,
Yes.
And you have to think about like the overall picture of the stress that you're putting on your body.
Yes, that's such a big one. It's the one thing I always notice when I go to America, because I move. The only time I move when I'm in America is when I'm running.
Yeah, you drive everywhere.
My recovery is so much better. I can do so much harder sessions without feeling really tired.
Yeah.
And it's just, my HRV's high, everything improves. And I have to say, I do lose my mind after 6 weeks, but it's great for my body.
Yeah. No, it's so true. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it just highlights, in London, I'm cycling everywhere, I'm walking the dog, I'm moving all the time.
Yeah. And it's all like forms of stress, isn't it?
Yes.
Someone is struggling post-injury with comparison online. How did you deal with that? Feel like a failure? Oh, you're not a failure. Absolutely not. You're trying to get through a really hard time.
First of all, reframe it. It's not a failure at all. It's a learning.
Yeah.
Right, it happens. It's all part of the sport. And unfortunately, I mean, I don't think I've met anyone who's like never got injured.
Yeah.
And to be quite frank, if you've never got injured, either you need to be cloned or you're not trying very hard. So
medical marvel.
It's, yeah. You learn something from it. Reframe it as an opportunity. And to be quite frank, just don't go online because it's really hard to avoid it.
Yeah.
Avoid that comparison. You're seeing people's highlight reel.
Yeah.
And if it's bothering you, just what's it adding?
That's what when I've not been able to run, like I have like had to shut down Strava or whatever, like I just can't see anyone else running.
Yeah.
But if it's going to help you, then you have to do it. But you'll be back, you know, this is only a moment in time. Like you will be back. So just look for what you can do.
Yes. Maybe just delete Instagram for a bit.
Yeah, it's not that great.
Strength and conditioning. How often do you train? And then someone's saying, how do you run when you have DOMs? They're struggling with balancing S&C and running because they get DOMs. First of all, how often do we train S&C? I do 2 major gym sessions a week, and then I'll do little bits of maybe one lighter one somewhere in there.
Oh, nice.
Bit of core and plyometrics and stuff like that. But 2 major sessions.
Yep, I'm the exact same.
Yeah. Then when I get close to a race, I'll drop it down to 1, which I think is the same for you.
Yeah, I drop it down to 1, like heavier one, but I'll try and still go into the gym twice because it's like the routine.
Yes.
And then just do sort of the lighter body weight stuff just so it's not as much load.
Yeah. Do you do yours on session days or on easy days?
Either I'll do it on my session day or I'll do it the day after. Because usually I have like a 2-day gap before my next session. So it just depends how tired I am. So yesterday I was going to do it. It was my long run day. I was going to do it yesterday, but I was knackered. I was like, I need to just lay down. So I'm going to do it today.
So then that gives you time to get over the DOMs before your next session.
Yeah.
We do still sometimes have DOMs after gym sessions. So the run the next day, even if it's an easy day, how do you approach that?
When I have an easy day, I just run to feel. Like I'm not like, oh, I must hit the pace I always hit on my easy days. If I'm more sore, I'll just be slower. Like I really don't care. And that's just, some easy days are just going to be harder than others.
I think the other thing that Aidan said is to not worry about DOMs too much. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's just you haven't used that muscle in that way for a while, and it's adapting. So
and they should get easier.
Yeah, don't overthink it.
If you are doing like 2 sessions or 1 session a week, like your body adapts, so it doesn't get as painful every time. Yeah. And if you're recovering effectively, like the DOMs shouldn't last too long. If they are, I would say like just look at your recovery as well.
To add to that, I would say don't shy away from the heavy weights.
No.
I actually get the worst DOMs from like the high Pam abs. Kills me.
Oh, God, don't.
The DOMs are horrific.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Like the light, I'm the same. The high reps.
I don't think it's the weight that necessarily is the reason for DOMs.
Yeah.
It's very good for strength, so keep it in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, I think that's all we have time for this week.
Yes.
But thank you very, very much to our listeners for sending in the questions and for coming along with us on
2 years
of 5 Miles Easy.
We've loved it. Thank you so much. And we cannot wait for lots more episodes.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, 5 Miles Easy.
See you next time.